Hey, it's Jason. So I'm here with the 97 Toyota 4Runner limited seat. If you watched my video, you would have seen how I removed it. And I'm in my office, and I'm doing this in my office because it's about 38 degrees outside. And I've let this seat sit inside as well as the leather just to get really nice temperature. So this is the reason why I'm replacing it. The seat bottom leather. This is the new stuff that came in. It was $89. And in my opinion, it's a pretty perfect match. This is probably a little darker maybe, just from like the wear. But this is oak, and it's supposed to be a good match. And I'm very satisfied with that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk through how I actually am going to put the new seat leather on and show you step by step. And the key tools that you'll need will be the hog wires, the actual device to put the hog wires on, a Phillips head screwdriver, it seems. I feel like I always use needle nose pliers, and I'm going to use this to try to get the buttons off without scratching the existing plastic. And it's critical to do this in warm temperature because you don't want the plastic to be all cold and brittle and break, because this is a 23-year-old seat. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk through getting the bottom off and putting the new leather on. And you'll remember from my previous video, you had to have the seat all the way in the lowered position, which it is. And I was just told to do that, I think, because it has some screws or something. So let me go ahead and begin. And to start, what I'm going to do is actually take off these buttons. They just pop off. So I'm just going to use this plastic thing to go behind and basically just like that, pop them off very, very easily. I don't want to use a screwdriver or something, because I don't want to break anything. And you'll see they just pop off very easily, like so. And then you're going to want to go ahead on the back and do this screw. And I believe that will make the plastic on the left-hand side pop off. So let me go ahead and give this a shot loosening up that screw, and then we'll go from there. As I just showed, next is to get this seat, removed from the actual pan per se that it's sitting in. Now I understand why they said the seat had to be in the lower position, because there's going to be two bolts. They're going to be 12 millimeter. So you're going to want to use your 12 millimeter socket and the two bolts, that guy right there. And if that seat was not in the lower position, I'm going to bet that that would be up behind the metal. So with the seat in the lower position, I can access this one. And then the other one is, if you look at this electronics module, you're going to want to pull the leather back a little bit. And you can see the other one is right there. So those are the two that you're going to want to undo with your 12 millimeter socket. Just to show you, right here, seat has to be lowered to access it. And then right behind here is the other one. Those would be the two. So let me loosen those up. And you can see it breaks pretty easily. And I've used an extension on my socket wrench so I can really get in there and get this loosened up to pull the one out. Now with both of those out, the one over here, 12 millimeter, the one back here, you can see it's going to want to lift right out. So presumably I'm going to do a process on the other side. So let me get this seat turned around so I can access it on my table here. Alright, so I flipped this seat around, as you can see. And I need to access similar process. It's a screw here, a screw here, and that appears to be it. And the seatbelt will stay in place. It's just going to pop off around that. So let me loosen these up and see what happens. So right when those three screws are undone, 1, 2, actually there's only 2. What am I saying 3? Just 2, 1 and 2. This just popped right off. But it slides in that little black plastic slot when you put it back on. So it's important to remember that this is going to slide in that notch. So this guy here, how it's notched on the end, will slide in. And then with this off, you get to find all of the 23 years of grime. It's going to be, looks like 1, 2 holding this in. So 1 and 2. 1, 2. So farther back here. And then I expect this to lift out. So you're going to want to take your 12mm socket, put on here, loosen this up. And this is tight, and I'm doing it with my left hand, one hand. But you can see it shouldn't be that difficult to get those loose. So let me undo that and get the seat bottom out. All right, so I have the all the bolts undone, and the seat bottom's just going to come right out. But I'm going to go around to the back here and show one of my metal wires was hooked to a cable because it was so deteriorated. So just give it a little look in the back and make sure none of the electric cables are hooked to anything. On mine, it was snagged on one of the hog wires. So this is the bottom of the seat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture, and I'm going to show exactly where the hog clips were. So when I put the new cover on, it's completely hooked similar. And I'm going to try to document any of the other metal or anything else that's in here with photos. And then we'll go from there. But this is how the old seat looked. And I'm going to go ahead and take some photos, and I'll clean this seat up a little bit now that it's out. No sense in not doing that. So I did take a nice picture, but just to show 1, 2, and this will be the back of the seat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And they hook in these little inserts that you can see. So you can probably make it out without even having to take a photo. And then you're going to want to clip. This is another tool that you're going to need, or something, to break the old ones. You're going to want to basically just put it on. I would wear safety glasses. Just be safe and cut the old one right off. And you can see then it will start popping that leather back out. So I'm going to unclip all of these and then see what I'm working with. Alright, I have all the clips cut off, and I'm doing this obviously on a soft pad. And you're going to basically want to just roll the old leather off. You don't want to pull all the foam off, so you want to kind of pick up an edge. And as I'm showing here, or attempting to show, pick up an edge and just roll it upward. Make it go inside out, and push it inside out up over the seat. So then you can put the new one on, and the new one will hopefully roll over, and then you get it all hog tied up. But that's what you're looking at when you undo those 12 hog ties. And it's rusty and everything underneath, so I'm going to clean it up really nice before I put it back together. I'll get the old leather off, and then I'm going to go ahead and spray some rust preventative and stuff just on the areas and lubricate it, because I don't see any reason not to. So let me get this leather off, and then I'll show you what I'm working with. Okay, so I was rolling it up, as you can see here, and what this has is a metal wire that goes through it, and then that metal wire, I'm going to try to get nice and close here so you can see. So this metal wire right here goes through the existing seat cover, and then those metal that I'm hitting right here hooked into the seat, and this has hog ties onto it. So what that means is this is basically connected to the metal going through the seat to keep the cover in place. So you're going to have to go in and clip out the hog ties on the seat that's hooked to the metal on the seat, and then of course the metal in the seat. So pull out that hog tie like so, and then you can see that now it's going to free that up. So I'm going to go through and unclip these bad boys just to get everything nice and clean, so this metal, this leather seat will come off. I didn't realize it was done like that, but I learned something, and this is my first time ever doing this. So I expected to learn some new things. So I have the sides unclipped, and then this is not a heated seat. If it was a heated seat, there would be that like white padding with the bars that go through it. This is not heated. So I don't know if yours is heated and you're watching this, just bear in mind, it may look a little bit different. But then you're going to have two more right there that you're going to have to pop out. And then the existing cover leather would just come right off. Okay, so what I've decided to do is, if you look at this seat, the old cover, this metal wire would go through this outer edge. So I'm not exactly sure if I was supposed to pull this out, which is like a thick, like a very thick twine. But what I'm going to do is pull the old wire out and put underneath in that opening there and fish it all the way through. So then I'll hog wire to that wire through this, and then you also have this really nice thick seam, and I'll do the same here. This didn't come with any instructions. I'm just using my guess. I don't see any harm putting that wire through here, and you're just going to want to take it and pull it out of the old one. I had to cut it in a few spots where it was already ripped, but then I get this metal wire that comes out, and then I'm going to feed that through the bottom under that big thick seam or twine or whatever you want to call it. I'm not an upholsterer guy. This is my first time doing it, but I feel like that can't cause any harm. But I'm sure some folks might correct me if I'm doing it wrong. But let me give this a go and see what happens. Okay, so I got that metal going through this side underneath what looked to be really thick twine. This was the cheaper seat cover, so I'm starting to wonder maybe if, you know, they cut a few corners on this one, who knows. But it goes all the way through. So what's going to happen, if you can see here, when I put that hog tie on, it's going to hit that metal plus that thick edging inside. And I believe I'm going to want to do this middle and perhaps these sides the same way. And then I can start fitting it back on, beat it into place, and hog tie everything up. So let me look at the other seat cover here. And we have metal here, and we have them on the sides. And it looks like individual pieces. So I'm going to go to put them in. I just don't see any harm that they could cause. And I'm going to put them on each side and the metal seat. So let me take all these out. Alright, so I have the metal going through the new seat around the whole outside, inside the areas where it would be hog-tied. One difference on this seat, that piece on the original was the full width of this. Here, it's only that much. So you can see the metal that's going underneath is exposed. I'm going to wrap this with tape just to avoid any potential, you know, sharp edges popping through over time. But I feel like I'm going to need that to hog tie it closer to the sides. So where I'm at now, the seat has been sitting in the sun. Everything's nice and through. And then you're going to be able to start working it onto the foam. And that metal that sits inside of here is what you're going to be hog tying it to. Okay, so what I did here was I used some heavy duty Gorilla tape just on the foam that seemed a little weak. I doubt it's going to really do anything, but I feel like it will be better than nothing. I didn't want to like glue in here or anything, but once the seat cover's on, it should hold everything nice and firm. And then over here, where the metal was longer, I just wrapped it in some of the same tape just to avoid any really sharp edges, potentially ever puncturing through. So the next step is I'm going to flip this inside out, and I'm going to lay it down and use the hog ties on the metal here. And you can clearly see it goes here and here. And on most of these, it's very easy to see where they'll go because the metal wire is exposed. I also shook this cover to get out some of the crumbs. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to start clipping this back in. So let me try to get it lined up to put this in, and I'll take a quick video to show. So this is the tool that you'll use for the hog ties. I got it for 19 bucks, I think, maybe 14 bucks. And you'll basically just open it. It came with a whole bunch of the metal hog ties, as they'll call it. And then you will load it in the tool. I'm going to show you. I'm just doing it now, so bear with me. You would load it in the tool like so. And then when you squeeze it, it effectively creates like that little triangle hog tie. So then it will hold everything down. So I'm going to want to do that for that initial section. I'm going to try to do it. I'm not going to be in a video as I do it, but effectively you're going to hold it back and you're going to hog tie there and there to the metal bar right there. So that's what I'm going to do now. So you can see here that I have the first one hooked in. I'll do the second one next, and then that will have the actual bottom of the seat secured the way it should be. So now both are hooked in, really nice and secure. And that metal I taped is kind of pushing in the side, and it goes the full width. So the middle of the seat is now secure with the hog ties. So the next step, this is going to have to be fitted over the seat, and then you're going to hog tie these sections on. So clip them, and then fold this up over. Hog tie this down in, and then fold this over, and you have to hit it as you're going to make it nice and fit in there and flex the foam as need be to get into the seat cover. I'm going to hog tie this all up. I'll show what it looks like when I'm done. And then the next step will be molding it onto the seat. Hey, it's Jason. So I got the hog ties all down. You can see they go in there nice and tight. So it's all completely secured to the seat. So the next step is going to be to work this over and then strap it with hog ties underneath. I will say, kind of a pain. You really got to put your hand in there, push everything down, get that metal close to the metal on the seat cushion, and then hog tie it. But it's doable. My first time doing it, and I achieved it. So let me get this thing flipped over, and I'll start working it on the seat. Okay, so I got a bit of this leather that I'm working on, and the key as you flip it over, I found just hitting it to kind of get the cushion where you want to go. You can see it's a little wrinkled here just because I haven't pulled it nice and tight, and this is all going to pull down tight, and you know, when you pull it, the wrinkles will obviously come out when I hog tie it below. And it's evident on the seat where these screws go, you're going to have to puncture. And it was cut on mine. I'm just going to do a little tiny hole once I get everything put where it needs to be, so I can actually have access to put the screws back in, the bolts I should say, when it goes. So I'm going to keep fitting this on, and I'm going to put the final hog ties on, and then I'll make sure I have marks where I need to put the bolts and thread them back in. I'm going to have to cut out a little bit of fabric. You can see on the original, that's how much was out. I'm just going to cut a square out on the new one. So let me get to work on this and then I'll update you. Okay, so as I'm putting this on, you'll remember this has the metal that's running all through it. I ran it. But it also was hog-tied in the back. And this section is sewn in a manner that you can't get that metal in there. It would go in here, right? There's no opening anywhere to put it. So I was kind of curious, like, how am I going to actually get something to bite? Because this metal should go in here, so that way, you know, it will hog tie to the metal. This is the original one, and you can see that it slid through this opening. So I think what I'm going to have to do, because this is still shut, you obviously don't want to put it up here. You don't want to put the metal up here. It has to go in this pouch, but there's no openings. I'm just going to put a little tiny notch in here, and then I'm going to slide the metal in. So I'm just going to use scissors to put a very small notch, being absolutely certain I don't go through it. I just hit the section I need. So I have it notched. I just put this little tiny notch in here, and now the leather has the metal inside of it that will line up there, so I can hog tie it over the metal and not just hooking it to leather. I'm not sure why it was designed like that, but there's a few manufacturers of these. I picked the cheapest one, admittedly, and I think that just requires you to be a little more creative, like I've done here. And but I don't think it's going to impact the integrity long run. So if you don't want to have to worry about that, you might want to get the ones that already have those notches made. Or maybe this is typical. I don't know. I've never done it before. But it's working out fine with just a few adjustments. So the next step is going to be for me to hold this over and actually hook these hog ties in to make everything nice and tight on the seat. So then you won't get any of the wrinkles. And I suspect it's going to take a few months of sitting for this to really iron out. So let me just finish hog tying these, and then I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so I have the new leather on. We went from nasty to new. And it was my first time ever doing this. And I found it pretty easy. The key, I think, was I let this sit in my office, and it was very warm. The leather is really tight on here. It's going to obviously work out a little bit of the wrinkles that you see, mainly right here. And this, I think, is a result of that foam not being as smooth. Perfect foam here. This foam, you know, you can kind of feel the indentation where it was messed up. So I think that caused it to be a little more wrinkly. But it looks great. I'm very pleased with it. Yeah, let me show the side. So on the sides, I notched out where the screws will go in. There's a hole here. It will fit in perfectly. All of the hog ties are on very nicely. And it was really important putting that metal back here, because I'll tell you, without it, I don't know how this leather wouldn't have just ripped. So notching it and putting the leather in the back, or putting the metal in the back of the leather, was really big. And that's the finished product. I'm going to obviously sit it on the base and tighten everything up. And I'll show how it looks. Then I'll mount it back in the car and give it an inaugural drive sitting on it. So thanks for tuning in so far. Let me go ahead and get this mounted to the base, show you what that looks like, and then put it back in the vehicle, and we'll see a truly finished product with all the other leather as well. So great progress. All right, the seat is back. New leather, I think, looks pretty darn good. Can you tell it's a little bit lighter? A little bit, not much. But I think it's just because the leather that came from the factory was a little bit better quality. And it's been in the car for 23 years. So, you know, lots of things have pushed up against it. It was a project that I think was incredibly well worth it. Cosmetically, and even just comfort-wise. You don't have that metal or any hog ties protruding as you drive. And the goal of this 4Runner was just to maintain its integrity for a long time, because as we all know, ICE, internal combustible engines, will be a thing of the past. And I think in my lifetime, I'm not even 40 yet, I think in my lifetime, say in 30 years, I hope I'm still alive, and I think these cars would just be really a cool thing to have. It's going to be like looking at some of the cars from the 60s today and say, man, they just made cars so much better and so much cooler in 1997. So time will tell, but I'm really happy to have this little car in my collection. My intent initially was to sell it, but just like every car that I put a lot of time into, I get kind of attached to it. But if the right price comes along, I will sell it, because I am a Land Rover guy. Something about reliability just seems boring to me. Thanks for tuning in. Again, it's Jason. Be sure to check out my blog, jams.net, jamz.net. And why not give yourself some new leather for the low price of about 90 bucks and a little bit of time.